lot of artists are approached by radio DJs or promoters or people in the radio space, and they're told, your record is hot, give it to me and give me some money, and I can put your record into rotation and I can break you in X amount of time. First of all, for those who don't know, that is called payola, and that is illegal.
Oh, yeah, not what you need, and that is all. Nothing to say. Try to take my spot, yeah. You better breathe. Don't run cause I will spray. I got my.
What up? Welcome back to Beyond the Music. It's Matt B.
And it's your girl Angela.
And you know how we do it. We're just gonna go ahead and dive right into it. Scamming. People be scamming.
Mm-hmm.
The industry is filled with scammers. How do you avoid it? How do you navigate it? What does that look like? Let's paint a picture. Let's go.
Well, with scams in the industry, it's prevalent at all levels, but it's very much so present in the independent realm. And I think a lot of independent artists end up falling victim to scams. And it's really unfortunate, but typically what happens is an ambitious artist who's usually young or a manager will be approached by someone in the industry. They could be an upper echelon producer, or they could be a club promoter, radio host, whatever it may have you. And then that person will play on the heartstrings of the artist and say, or the manager, and say, hey, I heard your song is dope, and I think I could take you to the next level. And if you just give me X amount of dollars, you're gonna have a hit record in the next month. And unfortunately, the artist will typically get excited and take advantage of that offer and get taken advantage of in return. So that's typically what it looks like. But scams come in all different shapes and sizes, and we can dive into each example of what scams can typically look like. But that's in a nutshell what essentially they look like.
So then that begs the question, do we blame the scammer or do we blame the artist for getting scammed?
I think it's twofold, because it's a complex issue. You definitely have to hold the scammer responsible, because they are preying on the lack of knowledge of the independent artist. They're expecting and hoping that artist or management team or whoever is not going to have the adequate knowledge in order to make an informed decision for themselves or for their band or whatever. So because of that, they are preying on the weak, and anyone who's doing that is a person, and we have to hold them accountable for their actions, of course. However, on the flip side of that, the independent artist or team member, anyone who's a member of an artist team, needs to do their research. And I harp on it constantly, but it's so important to know the industry, and so important to know how the business works and understand all of the aspects of it, because at a certain point, certain things just start looking really obvious.
They definitely do.
And you can spot a red flag from 10 miles away. They don't even have to have an in-depth conversation with you before you realize okay, this person is not legit. This person does not have my best interests at heart. So I think it's twofold. I think you definitely have to hold the scammer responsible, but in the same breath, you can't just be an artist out here ignorant to what it is that the industry has to offer. Scams exist, shit people exist, but we have to be able to move through the noise, so to speak, and figure out what is and is not legit.
There are so many different things that go on, and so many different things that come to mind when I think about scamming in general, because I think about the pyramid schemes. I think about just everyday people, especially depending on the neighborhood that you're from, people just scam all the time. So it's
yeah.
What do you do? Do do you say that it's because of the lack of knowledge and the lack of self-awareness that allows people to fall for the scams? Or like, are the scammers, should they be ashamed of themselves? But then in reality, like, even when you think of business in general is a little sketchy anyway, because people are out for themselves, and that's like, but the rules of engagement are different, so people don't see it as scamming. But if you really think about it, if people are going after other people's money, trying to get the best, trying to get the most out of it for the crappiest product, et cetera, et cetera. Like, at the end of the day, people cut corners with their products. That just is what it is. And how is that different from getting scammed in the industry or the entertainment industry in general? Like that begs that question. Like, does that apply? Is it like a situation where, okay, well, you just got stained, but then low key, like, why did you put yourself inside of a situation to get stained? Now, obviously, that's like that teeters in the borderline of victim blaming.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's just like, I don't know, like, what do you do? Because it's like there's so much information out there that could prevent that from happening to someone. Does that mean that person was foolish and ignorant because of their own doing, or because they could have done better but they chose not to because they chose not to do their research? Or should the scammer just be way more ethical and be like, man, I'm not even gonna do that to you?
I think it definitely sounds like victim blaming. However, to a degree, you're right, because artists have to understand that the music industry in general, the entertainment business, like, let's not even just say music industry, like, the entertainment business in general is shiesty, it's dark, multifaceted. There are many, many layers, and a lot of them are not cute. So a person can't enter the industry and think that they're going to be able to be that one person that is not getting some form of shiesty stuff happening to them. They have to understand that they are entering into an arena that is full of people who are trying to one-up the next person to some degree. And arming yourself with that notion in the back of your mind, they need to then arm themselves with the information in order to avoid, and you can't avoid encountering, I don't want to say that, you can't avoid encountering these people, but you can avoid the negative aspect of the encounter. So you're going to encounter those people at a certain point, especially when you're just starting out and people see that you're an easy target. You're going to encounter them almost weekly. And it's up to the artist to know what it looks like when a scammer or a crappy situation is approaching and how to maneuver it. So what are some other examples that we can give for the artists out there that may or may not have encountered this, so that they can understand what a scam looks like and how to respond?
Well, when I think of scams in the entertainment music industry spectrum, I'm thinking of my top 3 things that would come to mind, which would be collaborations, people scamming off collabs on some, I'll get you this major artist, and they really can't. Mm-hmm. Then I think of radio play / playlisting. And then I think of show.
Yeah.
Those are the top 3 things that come to mind when I think of where you're most likely to get scammed, because all those 3 things look super appealing to get your buzz up, to get your fan base up, to get your clout up, and it's something where the desires to move forward causes a lapse in judgment.
Yeah. And let's dive into some of those. The first one, I believe you said, was radio. And if that wasn't the first one, I know that was one of the ones that you hit. And that is a huge one, because a lot of artists are approached by radio DJs or promoters or people in the radio space, and they're told, your record is hot, give it to me and give me some money, and I can put your record into rotation and I can break you in X amount of time. First of all, for those who don't know, that is called payola, and that is illegal. So I'm just going to throw that out there, that if anyone is approaching you and is saying, give me money in order to break a record on the radio, that is an immediate red flag. Definitely. Immediately walk away. Definitely. Close the DM. Close out your email. Send it to spam. Do not respond. I'm so serious. A lot of people will think, oh, if I get it on radio and I pay the money and do whatever it is I need to do on the street, get a street team, whatever, then I'm going to be the next big artist before the year is out. But radio play is exceptionally expensive, first and foremost. Second of all, it's a very, very hard industry to crack into as an independent, because it is predominantly controlled by the mainstream big labels. So the only way you're really going to be able to break radio is if you already have accrued some type of buzz for yourself and your record has already like gained some traction and got some legs, and now the radio stations, their DJs are just picking it up because it's trending on TikTok or it's on the top 50 chart on Spotify. It's on a bunch of big playlists on Apple Music. So if that's the case, you have a chance of getting picked up. Another chance is if you just so happen to sign with a major label, and that major label wants to give you those marketing dollars to pour into radio. Very rare do you see that with independents, but it happens. Those are really the only instances that you should be ever thinking about radio, unless you got a bag. Like, you really don't need to be thinking about radio. There are so many other ways to break as an artist that is more targeted and cost effective, and radio is not one of them. So if anybody comes up to you and says, I can break your song on radio, think of me. No. Think of me as the voice in your head that says, don't do it. This is illegal.
So then playlisting and streaming, particularly like user playlists and things like that, like if you're not getting on the editorial playlist, basically that's the new radio, right?
Yes.
Or it's a facet of what people are calling the new radio. So it's like, but they scam in the same way, and they're either making you pay more money or somewhere in that same spectrum as if you were to pay to play on a radio.
Yeah.
So it's like, what do those scams look like? Because those scams are like on some whole nother level, because you're not even meeting with the person. Yep. Typically you don't even know who they are. They have no presence online, and they hit you with the playlist tip. And then the industry is so word of mouthy, if that's a word that I could use. We make up our own words here on Beyond the Music. We make up our own words, but
hey, it's Matt B's words.
But yeah. So like you feel me? So it's like that. There's like some really like shiesty stuff going on where you can't even really check the credibility of the person. So does it heighten the likelihood of getting scammed? Does it lower the likelihood because you're like, man, I don't even know who this person is?
So there's a couple of things. Let's dissect the playlisting thing. User-generated playlists on Spotify is a blessing and a curse all at the same time. It is a very powerful and unique tool that is used for artist discovery that can be really helpful. So I don't want to sit here and completely bash it, because if used correctly, and if you do it the right way and you're not blowing a bag, it can be useful and it can help you. It might not break your record, but it is for certain going to trigger some algorithms. And that's really what uploading your songs onto these DSPs is about. You're trying to trigger these algorithms so that way, in some way, shape, or form, you might be able to get lucky and attract the attention of one of these editorial playlist curators, and they'll pick up your record and place it. However, there's a dark side to user-generated playlists. Because they are user-generated, you get the scammers. Insert scam artist. And the scam artist will create the playlist and use third parties to accrue a whole bunch of bot followers and false listenership and all types of stuff. And it will appear like they have a poppin' playlist. But there's a way to research this using a tool on chartmetric.com.
Y'all gotta write that down.
Write it down, Chartmetric, and you can go onto Chartmetric and type in that name of that playlist, and you can find all of the data that you need to see on the chart. And that chart is going to show how quickly those followers came in, the listenership, everything is there, and it's laid out for you. And when you analyze that chart and analyze all that data, it's going to become abundantly clear whether or not it's organic. If it's organic, you're going to see natural ups and downs and inclines and declines, and it's going to look like a chart. It's going to look like natural data. If you start seeing complete flat line, a big spike, that is a red flag. If you see a big, huge spike and then it just slams down to the ground and now it's just flat, red flag. That is like one of the easiest ways to tell if a playlist is fake, and if that person who either you reached out to or you found on your own accord and you were interested in that playlist, that's one of the easiest ways to tell if that person is legit. And as far as I know, it's one of the only reliable ways. There are other ways like word of mouth and researching the person for as much as you can. Like you can also cross-reference that person's data from their Spotify username if they have one. Some people go anonymous and they'll just have a bunch of letters and stuff, but some people will put their name, and you can take that name and copy paste it into Facebook or copy paste it into Instagram and see what you get. But you know, it's not always reliable just because it's a real person. That real person might still be trying to scam. So the best way is to make sure that there isn't an excessive amount of bot traffic and all of that stuff. But typically that person either will reach out to you and say, hey, I like your record, pay me some money and I'll drop it on my playlist. Typically that's not a good sign. I have never heard, I won't say never, typically I have not heard of positive outcomes when the person comes to you.
No.
Especially if they come to you and then say, if you give me some money, I'll put your record on. Because if they really liked your song, they would just put it on their playlist.
Right.
Because they've got all the other big artists on that playlist, so why can't you just add mine?
Right. True,
so usually that's a sign that someone is fishing for cash. But it can also come in the form of you approaching them and saying, hi, I really like your playlist and I would like for you to consider XYZ song. And that person will either say, yeah, for sure, let's go. I like your song, I like the vibe, let's do it. Good sign. Not so positive sign is if the person starts saying, well, you know, my playlist got a lot of followers, so you might have to sign me like a rack.
Right.
At least.
Right.
And if that happens, don't pay a rack for one Spotify playlist. Please don't do that.
Definitely don't do that, because low-key that was your whole rent money.
Stop.
And y'all was trying to feed y'all kids with that. But instead you played yourself and you done gave it to the player man.
The play.
You done gave it to the scammer man.
Yes, please.
To the picture man. No.
So, and then I want to be clear too. There's ways, like I told you, to cross-reference data and see if that is legit. And if they are and they check out and they're asking for a reasonable price, it is then your responsibility as an artist, and if you have a team, consult your artist manager and everyone else on your team and see if that is something that is worth exploring. make an informed decision before you spend any money in anything.
Right.
Like, you should never just be willing to just throw money at people. Should always make informed decisions, especially with people you don't know.
So then that brings us to the artist side of things, because we still got to dissect scamming on the artist side and scamming on the show side. And you know, for the artist side, I mean, you know, the scamming is at an all-time high, which is why, like, even in my record, No Swipe. I know your type. You like to bite.
You like to bite.
You on every site. That's all they like. Every time I wrote on Instagram, you be in my stories trying to scam.
See,
you feel me?
That's why he
Hey,
put that part in there.
Shout out to my nigga Shells, because his pen game is spectacular. You feel me? No, but like on some real stuff though, like the scam is at an all-time high with just artists and not even just artists, people coming at you on behalf of artists, and then the artists don't know nothing about it because low key that person doesn't even know the artist. They just like maybe they're affiliated in some way that puts them in a position that or they built out a page that seemingly looks like they know the artist when in reality they don't know the artist from Tom. So like, how do you even avoid that? Like, and one could say verification badges, but we all know like people be scamming off the verification badges.
It's a whole scam.
So how do you even avoid that? Like, you know what I mean? It seems like it's almost like an impossible thing to avoid, because it's like you turn left, you're getting scammed. You turn right, you're getting scammed. You go in the middle, you think you're safe, and then the floor falls from underneath you, and you got scammed off that too. So how does an artist even navigate that? How does an artist team even navigate something like that? Because for me, like the way I navigate that is I don't navigate that because my team navigates that for me. You feel me? But you ain't on that level yet. So let's talk about. So let's talk about how people navigate that.
I think the best way is obviously if you have the budget and you have the resources, the best way to avoid getting scammed is to hire a manager and team members that can help you make those informed decisions, especially if you're not a business savvy person. Not everybody is dedicated enough to sit there, create the music, produce the music, write the music, put the music out, and then market it, and then watch for scammers, and then negotiate deals. Like, not everybody is gonna want to do that or even be cut out to do that job. So you gotta know yourself and know your limitations. So if you know that you're not that kind of person, you should probably hire a team. And there's ways to barter it where you don't have to spend a crap ton of money, and we can go into that in another podcast episode for the sake of time. But in an ideal world, you would definitely want to hire a team that can help you make that informed decision. In the event that you cannot, whether it's not hiring a manager or you can't afford to hire a music attorney or whatever. In the event that you can't do that, the next best thing is you have to educate yourself. And that's just, personally, I believe every artist should be doing anyway. I think that no one knows everything, no matter at what level you're at. I don't care if you are in the basement of your mama's house or sitting on 25 Grammys. You should always be learning.
Having a team of advisors.
Always be researching. Always be thirsty for knowledge. Like, it should be an itch. Like, when you wake up, you should be like, damn, I really want to learn today. Like,
but half of y'all didn't even learn that skill set because y'all didn't even want to stay in school.
Would you start with these side
Don't be a fool. Stay in school. No,
So you should always have that drive to learn more and to want more for yourself and for your brand. I mean, essentially, you as an artist are creating a unique brand, and you're using your music as a commercial.
Right.
And the music is helping you to market whatever your brand is.
Right.
So if your music draws in an audience, and now that audience is exceptionally interested in you, now it's your job to say, all right, now I got all these eyeballs. What am I selling to these people?
True.
Because otherwise, they're not even going to know what to do once they step into your world, as you say. And then they're going to lose interest and be like, well, I like that one song, so I'm going to just take that one song, put it on my playlist, and I'm going to tip on out.
So let's reel this back in a little bit in reference to the scamming when it comes to people in your DMs and all the rest of that stuff. Because I know, like, even for myself, speaking from my own personal experience, when it comes to visibility, the more visible you become as an artist, the higher the likelihood that scammers are going to pop up.
Yes.
However, with more visibility comes more experience, so the likelihood of you getting scammed isn't as high as you grow as a recording artist. Now there's that intermediate phase, or even that phase where you're a newbie, green around the ears, and you're just desperate just to get any ears, whatever, whoever it is on your music. And those are the people, to me, that would be the most vulnerable to get scammed, because they're sitting there and it's like, man, you know, I really want my streaming numbers to be good. I really want my music videos to really pop, and I really want to do shows and things like that. And just nobody will give me a chance. Nobody will give me an opportunity. So when someone does pop up in their DMs on some, it just seems like it's God sent. Or it's like, man, I got this show for you, and or I got this collab for you. Man, you could collab with this artist, with this R&B artist, or this hip hop artist that charts in the Billboard Hot 100 or Top 40, and then you sitting there happy as ever, like a kid in a candy store, because no one else will give you an opportunity. So they leap at it, and you know, maybe coming back down to their senses later on, they're like, you know, why did I even do that? But you know, how does even one navigate that? How does one stop that? Because even for me, like, I've seen opportunities, especially early on in my career, where I was like, man, and I wanted to jump at it, and then I had to take a step back and think about it, and I had people around me that was like, no, man, that's looking a little funny to me. And then, you know, it gave me the clarity that I needed to take a breather, maybe wait a couple of days, think on it, and then realize, like, yeah, this ain't looking right. And then the person's back in your DM, and then, like, you start getting that feeling like, man, am I throwing this opportunity away? And, you know, so it's like a struggle.
A couple of things. Like you said, whenever an offer comes, especially if it's something like a tour, or paying to be on somebody's tour, and they come out of the woodwork with these ungodly amounts of money,
and some of them are legit.
However, you have to be strategic in what you choose to spend your money on. Like I said earlier, like, you can't be so quick to jump at an opportunity because, oh my God, I haven't gotten something like this before, I have to take it now. Like, take a deep breath, meditate. And then after you take your deep breath, woosah, and come back down to earth, because not everything that glitters is gold. And while it may sound like a beautiful opportunity to open for a big mainstream artist on a large stage, especially for an independent who has never likely experienced something like that, you have to first and foremost make an informed decision with your team and figure out all of the nuances. So typically what I do to dissect situations like this, it gets really obvious at a point. First of all, directing them, if you have one, to your team and saying, hey, thank you for the inquiry. Please pass this information along to my management, and they can further help you figure all of this out. If you don't have a manager, you can just tell them, hey, can you provide me with more details? What comes with doing this show? Because I'm paying you, let's put a number on it, I'm paying you $10,000. With this $10,000, am I just paying to be on this set? How many other artists are on this set too? Am I one of 2? Am I one of 5 opening acts? What else are you providing? Are you going to be providing me with my travel? Am I going to have to get my own tour bus? Am I going to have to pay for my food? Am I going to have to pay for someone to capture the fact that I was there? My videography, my photography? Like, there are so many things that go into touring with someone else and taking advantage of an opportunity like that you really got to think about all the aspects. Because if you give someone 10 racks and they say, by the way, I'm not paying for shit else,
right,
you're gonna be
right,
mad, because
right.
You're gonna be like, dang, I just gave you all that bread and I gotta pay for my food, I gotta pay for my travel, you're not covering my videography, you're not covering anything. So on top of the 10 racks, you also got to cover everything else. So at the end of the day, for an opening slot, and you might even get the crap time, like the main act might not go on until 10 p.m. and you could open at 6.
Right. Right, but you still open.
Right. And you could end up at the end of it, if they're not covering anything else and it's like a month or 2 long tour, you could be out $50,000 at the end of it. And you gotta ask yourself, is that worth it?
True.
And a red flag is, as I'll bring it back to what I was saying earlier about if that person reaches out and you ask for more details. If they never reach back out to your management, red flag. Because if they're serious and they really like you and they're interested in you, it doesn't matter who they gotta talk to. They're gonna talk to whoever they need to talk to in order to get you on their tour because they're interested. If they are very short with your manager or short with you as the artist and they're like, oh, well, there really ain't more details to it. You just pay me the money and I'll save your slot. It's as simple as that. So yes or no. Like, also red flag. Like, if someone is asking you to pay a large amount of money to be a part of a tour, they gotta have some details. And if they don't, that's probably not something you want to take. Further, again, I'll bring it back to my other point. You have to be strategic with the moves that you make. Not every move, not every opportunity is an opportunity for you, a smart opportunity for that moment in your career, and you can't dive at everything. It has to make sense. And if you are a tiny artist from a discrete corner of whatever state, and you have 100 followers on Instagram, and you have little to no budget, and somebody is asking you to shatter your bank account and all of your savings,
right,
to be on a tour with somebody, for the love of Christ, don't do it.
So if you gotta go into your sock drawer, you already know that's not the move.
If you gotta borrow money from your
have it
mama,
inside of your bank account, that's what it was.
Don't do it.
When I'm thinking red flags, I'm thinking like if I'm gonna list it, because I'm big on like my top 3s or my top 5s. I feel like when it's narrowed down to that much, like that, or I shouldn't say that much. When it's narrowed down to that little, and it can be processed in that way, I feel like that's like the easiest way for me to process information. So when I'm thinking my top 3 or my top 5 ways of knowing that somebody's scamming, I'm thinking the unwillingness to sign a contract.
Yep,
would
that
be
one too.
A huge red flag for me, that this person's on bull. Another huge red flag would be that person's willingness to always talk on the phone because they don't want a paper trail.
Yep.
So they don't want to talk via text message. They don't want to talk via email. They don't want to stay in your DM for too long. They want your phone number and they want to call you. Call, because they don't want a paper trail. Then the last one that I'm thinking of is when people are trying to get you to pay in cash.
Yep.
Or they trying to get you to send them a Cash App or something like that, but their Cash App name is something weird like man, always get paid, or the kid on the come up, like that just sounds like some whole send off. Like it's not even,
be giving you away.
It's not even a real name. So for me, when I'm thinking about scamming and I'm thinking about just instant red flags, that's what's coming to mind for me.
Yeah. And
that is what makes me go, no, this dead. And now, especially in my career now, like especially with the amount of DMs and things like that I get, I just like to people. So I like, meaning that like I think it's funny and I already see what they're doing. So then I just start just messaging them back, trying to see how long I can string them along until they get frustrated, and they're like, and then they stop DMing me, or they're like, man, you on shit, man, or something like that, and then they leave me alone. But I mean, that's just for my own personal entertainment.
I love the points that you brought up, and I want to go back to the point that you made about the lack of a paper trail. And I want to say to our listeners that having a paper trail is so important, and it's one of the easiest ways to keep track of not only your income and what you're spending and how you're spending, but it also is a really good way to sniff out a scam. And like you said, if someone is trying to pay in all cash, that's typically a red flag. And for me, when I'm doing any type of big transaction, I'm a huge fan of PayPal, because PayPal, especially if they're, and make sure you're doing the PayPal transaction where it's not friends and family, so you can get your money back. Because they'll try to pull that too, because they'll put it under the guise of, oh, if you do it with the other option, then I gotta pay a fee with PayPal. Like, you're gonna pay that $20 fee, my brother. Because what you're not gonna do is scam me, take my bread, and then I call PayPal and they tell me that I sent it to my friend and family. And I don't even know you. So that's what we're not gonna do.
Man.
So I like using PayPal because it keeps everything completely organized. I get to look back on my activity and see what I spent it on. You can leave notes, mental notes, for you to look back on and say, oh, okay, I spent that on tour dates, or I spent that on whatever. And then it also gives you a receipt, versus if you're paying with cash, ain't no receipt. And if someone were to say, oh yeah, I'll put you on this tour, give me $2,000, you give them the 2 racks in cash, and then they dip, how are you gonna call your bank?
Right.
Ain't no proof. You
Right.
didn't sign any contracts. You don't have any paper trail because you only talked to this dude on the phone. So you have no emails.
The finesse.
Emails are so important. You have no emails. You have no text
Because
messages.
emails are a legally binding document, and people don't even know that.
There you go.
And
Say
so
it
are,
again.
and so are
Say
text,
it again.
so are text messages.
Say it
They're
again.
legally binding documents.
Yes.
That can be used in a court of law.
Yep. And if you have a paper trail of that person saying in an email or a text message that they are going to provide a service to you after you give them X amount of dollars, they have technically agreed, and that is enough information to at the very least, help you get your money back.
Right.
But if you don't have any of those things and you paid in cash,
yeah, you cook.
so long, my brother.
So let's wrap this up then. Let's wrap this up. Let's put a bow on it and just say, like, scamming in general. What should one do? What would be a banner of what not to do? Like, red flag, scammer coming down the pipeline, you don't want to go that way type of thing. Road closed, veer left, get the fuck up out that jam type of scenario.
For me, that's a little difficult. Because I'm a deep thinker, so it's multifaceted for me. But the first red flag for me is always when people come out the gate asking for money, because you're not finna just hit me in my pockets off the jump, like in a cold email.
Right.
And be like, hey, I love your artist, give me $500 and I'll promote him. Like,
Right.
bro, hello, how are you? Where did you find me? How'd you find Matt
Right.
B? How did you discover Matt B? Do you know anything about him? Like, sheesh, relax.
Right.
You have got to relax. Some of y'all becoming so hard and aggressive, and it's just like, whoa. So for me, definitely when people come out the gate asking for bread and stating their business in a way where it's like they're telling you what you're about to do for them. So that's like one of the biggest red flags for me. The second biggest red flag would definitely be a lack of wanting to sign contracts or elaborating on any details and just wanting you to hurry up, rushing you like, hey, I just hit you an hour ago. Did you make a decision yet? Well, you know this is time sensitive, so you gotta hurry up. Come on.
Right.
Like, damn.
Not give you no breathing room.
Yeah, like they're trying to pin you down and put you under their thumb, so that way they can hurry up and get you while you're excited, because they know that typically the longer somebody thinks about something, the higher likelihood that they're not about to do it. So they're trying to get you while you're hot. And I don't like being rushed. I like to take my time. So
you walking slow motion over here on Beyond the Music. I just moved right now and you didn't even see it. I went to the bathroom and everything. No, I'm just fucking.
But that's like just for me. What does that look like for you?
For me, it's just like, it depends on what spectrum we're talking. If we're talking social media, then what it looks like to me would be somebody commenting and saying, "Man, your record hot, man. Hit my DM."
I hate that.
Because they want you,
sorry, I do.
so they want you to hit their DM so that you'll be the one who initiated.
Yep. That's a trick bag, y'all.
Or it also looks like to me, like when people are using mass messages where they just address you by name in the first portion of the message, and then from there the rest of it just looks like a copy paste. And then even their answers behind what you message back is a copy paste. So you gotta get like 5 messages in before the copying and pasting stop
to get a real human response.
So that to me would be like on some scamming stuff, especially on the social media side. Also on the scamming tip would be like if their profile is private and you gotta request in order to get in, or
shady.
Or if they have lopsided follower to engagement ratio, then it's like, bro, how you got 500,000 followers and you get 2 likes per post?
Come on, y'all.
So that to me just scream scammer.
Please,
or somebody who snagged a verified account somehow in some way, shape, or form, and then rebooted the account. So now they got a verification badge, but then low key is like, bro, how did you even get this verification badge? This don't make no sense because everything that you're doing is not verifiable to me. This does not look blue check mark worthy to me. So that to me would be like my end all be all outside of like the other red flags I mentioned earlier of just like the cream of the crop scamming.
Right. I think the biggest takeaway for artists should be, and anyone else who's a part of an artist team or anything, the biggest takeaway should be never ever let your guard down. For one, know that you are in a very shysty industry where people are literally looking to take advantage of you on any given day. Doesn't matter how successful you are, people are trying to take advantage of you for their own personal gain. Always know that. And in knowing that, know that there is hope for a better tomorrow if you do your research.
Got to.
Don't walk around here ignorant and thinking that you are invincible and that you will not get scammed.
Because low key, if you do, you the biggest stain. And you the easiest stain.
Yes. And that to me is one of the biggest takeaways. And the other one would be, if you can, and I know it's a lot for some people, but if possible, really try to build out a team. And we can talk and discuss in another podcast of when the timing is right to bring on a team and the order in which to bring on a team, because it shouldn't be like at the ground level you hire a manager, a creative director, a publicist, and all that. Like there's a whole method to the madness, like, but it's gonna take way too much to get into all that. So that's another topic for another day. But just know that to avoid scams, typically in an ideal situation, it is the best to have a team that you believe in, they believe in you, they have your best interests at heart. And I know I'm asking for a lot, but if they have your best interests at heart and it's someone that you really feel that you can trust, they are going to really help you to sniff out a lot of the BS and break through a lot of that noise where you don't have to be the sole person figuring all that out. Artists are emotional, so their music is their baby. I've said that before. So they're gonna want the best for their baby, and if someone is coming to them with a deal, they might not think about all the nuances that someone who's a manager and an outside party is going to think about. So having a team that's solid and smart is key in order to avoid a lot of scams. So those would be like my biggest take homes, and I hope that y'all run this back a couple of times and take some notes, because there were definitely gems dropped.
Well, there y'all have it. I mean, the scams are at an all-time high, especially in the music industry, entertainment industry, social media spectrum. We want to know what y'all think. Especially like if you're tuning in on the podcast side, definitely jump over to YouTube. Jump over and join the conversation. Hit us up in the comments. Let us know what you think. Is scamming at an all-time high? Is that just cap? Do you think that people fall for scams because they suckers? Or do you think that the scammers should have bigger hearts? Should they not do that to people? Like, let us know in the comments. In the meantime, this is your boy, Matt B.
And it's your girl, Angela.
You can follow me at Matt B World. That's MATTB World.
And you can follow me at Angela V. Benson.
This is Beyond the Music. The conversation continues.
Peace out.